I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. We look at the gender pay gap and see whether there may be an app to fix that. Dengue fever is on the rise and the climate crisis may be to blame. And bark on the 4th of July, animals doing stuff. And top of our news feed is the gender pay gap. There's good and bad news for women across the world. The pay gap is narrowing, but it's going to take a long time till it's a thing of the past. Now, Liz has been taking a look and examined some of the new ways of speeding up the process.
On average, for every dollar a man earns, a woman earns 54 cents. And at the current rate, it's going to take more than 200 years to close the gap. It matters where you are in the world. Employment website Glassdoor has compared the pay gap in 8 developed countries. Germany is the worst offender. Women earn about 78 cents for every dollar a man receives. The US is plotting a quicker path to parity. The pay gap has dropped from about 6.5% to 4.6% and could take decades, not centuries, to balance out. It matters how old you are. Glassdoor also found that wage discrepancy widens with age. In the US, the difference is probably less than 2% before the age of 24. But by the time women hit 55 to retirement age, it can be as much as 12%. And it definitely matters what your job title is. In the US, female pilots earn 26% less than men, while medical technicians earn 11% less. There are plenty of reasons why, from unconscious bias to years of having to look after children to outright discrimination. But there are a number of examples of new tech being developed to fight for fairness. GapSquare has created software to analyse the economics of companies so they can improve their human resources decisions. While some women are using their own experience to help others negotiate higher salaries.
So I had an experience in my career where I noticed that my contract and pay were different to that of my male colleagues. And so I felt like I really needed to do something about changing that situation. And so the idea for the Pep Talker app was born, and the rest is history. So what the app does is it prompts you several times a week to enter the wins that you've had at work. So that way, every week you'll have a couple of achievements that you keep track of, so that in 6 or 12 months time, when you have your next pay review, you have a dossier of achievements that you can put forward to advocate to your boss for a pay or a promotion. So we know that through the research that we did that only about 15% of people track their wins. And actually that's one of the best things that you can do if you want to advocate for a pay rise or a promotion, is to track the day-to-day wins and the contribution that you're making to the business, whether that's from a cultural standpoint or a revenue or a customer acquisition standpoint. And so what the Pep Talker app does is it helps make that easy for you. So we use the nudge theory of psychology, which essentially means that by small behavioral changes every day over a long period of time, you can actually shift your behavior to really focus on the positives. Because what we know is that women in particular suffer from imposter syndrome and they struggle more with their self-worth. And so the Pep Talker app is really trying to change all that. So we know that men and women both negotiate for pay raises at an equal rate, but actually men receive pay raises more than women. And so what we're trying to do through the app is help give women the ammunition that they need so that they can have those conversations and make it more factually based and looking at the achievements specifically so that they have that data to back up their argument as to why they should receive a pay raise or have a promotion. So for example, someone who does use the app, she's based in Melbourne, Australia, she received a $60,000 raise purely by using the Pep Talker app to essentially track all of her wins at work and the achievements that she was making at the bank that she works at, and she was able to use that to advocate for herself. In an ideal world, the gender pay gap wouldn't exist. But unfortunately it does, and we know that that's due to structural issues within society, and that's going to take a long time to change. At the current rate, the gender pay gap is going to take 200 years to close. And really at Pep Talk Her, we're on a mission to close that gender pay gap a lot quicker. And so we are not the only solution, but we think that we're part of the solution. We're really looking at the grassroots end of town, and that's where we're hoping to see behavioural shift. But yes, definitely to see a significant change across society and across business, we need to see legislative change and also changes in behaviour from big business, because a lot of the gender pay gap is due to unconscious bias, and that behaviour needs to shift as well.
Okay, next, there is yet another danger associated with the climate crisis and rising temperatures, the increase in tropical diseases. Now, one in particular is causing some concern right now after a huge spike in cases.
Dengue fever is killing people across Central and South America. In only the first 6 months of this year, officials in Honduras reported almost 11,500 cases and 63 fatalities. That's almost 50% more cases as reported for all of 2018. In Brazil, more than 1 million cases of dengue fever have been reported, up from just 175,000 cases last year. And the climate crisis is being blamed. Mosquitoes in tropical and subtropical climates spread the virus that causes the fever. First severe outbreak was recognized in the 1950s in the Philippines and Thailand. Today, most of Central and South America and Asia are affected. But scientists warn that global heating means Europe is likely to be the next destination for the disease-carrying mosquito. Last year, only 9 cases were reported in Europe. But recent heat waves could drive mosquitoes towards the continent. But scientists may have a solution. Their research shows that planting 1 trillion trees could capture large amounts of carbon dioxide and slow down global warming. Scientists from ETH Zurich University say this is the cheapest and one of the most effective ways to tackle climate change by soaking up the excessive carbon dioxide in the world. Worldwide planting could clear out 2/3 of all the gas emissions in the atmosphere. Analysis show that there are almost 2 billion hectares of treeless land on which more than 1 trillion trees could be planted, in a world where only 3 trillion trees exist. So far, 48 nations are planning to plant trees on 350 million hectares of land by 2030. But is it going to be enough?
All right, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. Now, a picture from India is being shared. It's this one of a group of male researchers, analysts and other important people discussing education reforms and the first 3,000 days of a child's life. Now, people have been asking the very obvious question, where are the women in this group of experts?
From the deserts of Sudan and the pirate seas of the Horn of Africa.
A Twitter account called Sisterhood Lamb has posted this, a response to that New York Times job ad for a Nairobi bureau chief, which was roundly criticised for romanticising a colonial view of deepest, darkest Africa. The video clapback is brilliant and gone viral, but the Times has rather arrogantly kept the offensive advert active. The singer Joss Stone posted a couple of videos on her Instagram. She's on what she calls the Total World Tour, visiting every country, but when she landed in Iran, this is what happened. I'll let her explain.
Well, we got to Iran, we got detained, and then we got deported. I haven't quite got on the plane yet, but I got my phone back, which is good.
Now, elections are taking place in Greece on Sunday, which could bring about a huge change in a nation which has finally got back on its feet after the economic crisis nearly a decade ago.
Greek voters will head to the polls on July 7. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras called a snap election after the ruling Syriza party suffered a heavy defeat in European parliamentary elections in May. Tsipras' popularity was also on the line after brokering a deal with Macedonia to end a decade-long name dispute. The leading candidates are leftist Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras and conservative New Democracy leader Kyriakos Mitsotakis. Polls put Mitsotakis ahead of the embattled Tsipras.
Και κανείς δεν μπορεί να παραλείψει το σκληρό αγώνα που κάναμε. Παρά τα λάθη, παρά τις αδυναμίες μας, ποτέ δεν το κρύψαμε αυτό.
Jobs, jobs, jobs. Taxes, disposable income, and safety. People are concerned. Safety in the broader sense. People are concerned, especially here, about what's happening in our relationship with Turkey, but they're also concerned about rising crime in their neighborhoods.
Tsipras' 4-year term doesn't officially end until October. His ex-finance minister Yanis Varoufakis, turned Mera25 party leader, missed out on a European Parliament seat, but had something to say about the elections.
Εμείς λέμε ότι το να εκλεγούμε είναι σαν να βγάζουμε τα σκουπίδια και να τα βάζουμε και στον κάδο το βράδυ με το ασανσέρ. Έτσι, είναι μια βρώμικη δουλειά, πρέπει να γίνει, αν δεν γίνει θα βρωμίσουμε, αλλά όποιος αρχίσει να θέλει, να γουστάρει, να βγάζει τα σκουπίδια το βράδυ και να τα πετάει στον κάδο, πρέπει να πάει να το κοιτάξει το θέμα. Έχει ζήτημα.
This will be the country's first post-bailout general election. The country is struggling to recover from an economic crisis after borrowing more than 280 billion euros in 3 separate controversial bailouts since 2010. Both parties are promising more jobs and support for struggling workers. The country's youth unemployment rate stands at 40%. Meanwhile, pensioners are paying the price for the country's slow economy and hefty debt, since changes to pension regulations often mean further cuts to their pay. Voting is compulsory in Greece and abstention is punishable by law, but a penalty has never been enforced. A 50-seat bonus is given to the winning party to form a majority in the 300-seat parliament. But if the elections fail to form a government, the 50-seat bonus will not be granted under a new electoral law on proportional representation. Both candidates are divided on immigration policies. Since the 2016 EU-Turkey migration agreement, tens of thousands of asylum seekers were trapped in Greece, unable to continue their journeys to Europe. New Democracy promises to tighten its border protection and return migrants to Turkey, while Syriza wants to pressure the EU to accept more refugees.
All right, let's keep going around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Friday. Police in Australia have made a number of arrests to break up what they say is a professional begging ring. Cops in Melbourne say people have flown in from China to beg on the streets of the city's business district. Japan started whaling again on Monday, killing the giant mammals for meat and oil after withdrawing from an international ban on the practice. The first chunks of minke whale have gone under the hammer for $140. And staying with auctions, this is the bust of Egypt's young King Tutankhamun. It sold at auction yesterday for $5.9 million. It's 3,000 years old and was most likely stolen in the 1970s. Well, that's what Egypt's head of antiquities says. The London auction house that sold it says it came from a dealer in Munich who got it from a guy in Austria who got it from a German prince. Not clear how the German prince got his hands on it, though. And it was the 4th of July yesterday, but we're not going to talk about Trump's military display. No, we're going to look at how people kept their pets calm with all those jets flying overhead and the fireworks going off.
Shelter. We're doing our 4th of July Calm the Canines event, and the community has stepped it up a notch. We have such an amazing turnout this year, and I'm just going to walk through the wings and show you what's going on out there. Turnout has been amazing. There's so many people here. The dogs are absolutely calmed. We couldn't thank our community more. We couldn't thank our volunteers more. Thank you so much for making this the best 4th of July ever.
That will do from the Newsfeed team. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube, and you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. See you again soon.